recent months and even years, Karim Adeyemi has been one of those players that has been profiled to be linked with Liverpool. Not only because obviously the Jurgen Klopp link they used to have between Germany and Dortmund and Liverpool, not that that was really like a crazy link, but it obviously worked out well for us, but also just because of his actual talent, his age, his profile, and also just the fact that Liverpool love signing young, audacious talents, and at one point were probably more in the market than they feel right now for someone of the profile of Karim Adeyemi. But what does this mean for Liverpool? What does it mean for Karim himself? And what does it mean for moving forward Slot's style of play? A couple of different things to factor in here. Well, first of all, the guy's got a couple of years left on his contract. It didn't expire until midway through 2027, so we're looking at about 3 years left on that, probably just under, right? In fact, I know it's just under because it is 3 years left. So 2027. But Plettenberg, the other day, Florian Plettenberg, tweeted that for the right price, Dortmund would be willing to sell him or at least entertain offers for him. Now, this is also partially because Dortmund are somewhat of a factory themselves for talent, right? And so the talent that they get, they very often want to improve, upgrade in multiple different areas, improve their profile overall as a player, which I definitely think they've done with multiple different players, from Jadon Sancho to more recently Jude Bellingham, and there are lots of other players in between there as well. Excuse me. And then obviously they want to sell them on. So it's always in their interest to kind of put out these little feelers and put out the word that Karim Adeyemi might be on the market now, especially if they feel like they've taken him as far as they can, and the only next logical step is for him to go to another slightly higher profile team. Not that Dortmund aren't a very high profile team. They were themselves in the Champions League final last season, not least because of some of his efforts, but also they were very regularly competing for the Bundesliga and bloodying the nose, if not much worse, of the likes of Borussia Dortmund. Bayern Munich. So let's talk a little bit about the guy himself, right? Karim Adeyemi He's a great player. He's very bright on the ball. I think a huge thing with him is his positioning, his high pressing, definitely suits that kind of model. And that's why I think very often Liverpool and Dortmund players are linked up in the first place. It's like this idea of, well, you can play the system. We have a system. We've got some ideas and ideals that we want to adhere to. You'll fit into that. That's great. He's got the youthful exuberance and energy at 22 years old. Obviously, he's a German international at this point, and I think he's only just kind of scratching the surface of that. He's also someone who's played in Europe for a couple of seasons now. He's only really played at the very top level of Europe for about a year or two, because previously in the 21-22 season, he was with an Austrian side. I need to reference the name because, so before Salzburg bought him, then he was loaned to Liefering, and then he spent a year with Salzburg, and then it went to Dortmund. So it went Salzburg, Liefering, Salzburg, Dortmund. And he went to Dortmund for 30 million. So clearly he was very highly rated at that time as well. I remember at that time actually Liverpool were already interested in him and was showing interest in him, but maybe he just didn't fit the entry-level model, and maybe there were just too many other people within the team at that time who probably would have got minutes ahead of him, to be quite honest. Anyway, looking at where Liverpool are at right now, yeah, I definitely think he fits that. He fits the profile of a player who could play for a slot team. He's got the goal scoring, he's got the assists. If you go through and watch all of his beautiful highlights, there are definitely some goals that he's more part of. I think his link-up play and his kind of hook-up play with other players is very favourable. That's something I'd love to see within the team. Takes up really smart positions on the pitch. Very often is the available man for either the right side or the left side, or even through the middle as well. So maybe there's a Chiesa type profile there, but I think he's probably a mixture of a couple of different players. I've tried to find other profiles that he fits on, and he is probably closer to a Salah and maybe even a Diaz, when Diaz was his kind of peak goal scoring, and more of he cuts inside a lot more, put it that way, and then tries to take the not the easy shot, but the shot that's going to favour him, obviously on that left foot. But he's also obviously cutting in from the left. He's got that right-footed ability as well. I'll definitely say ball control is a big, I wouldn't say it's an issue for him, but there are times where you can kind of see him getting taken off the ball. You see the opposition breaking. People get a bit frustrated. The ball goes to him. Sometimes it doesn't stick with him. Sometimes the ball goes to him and absolutely sticks on him. Maybe there's a consistency thing that I'd imagine that someone at Liverpool would be looking at. But then there are games where it just seems to fit. There are games where it just seems to click for this guy. He has 9s and 10s on the likes of SofaScore. He's profiling really, really well in terms of he's taken lots of different kinds of goals. What I would certainly say is there are a couple of people where when he's hooking up with them, he's just hooked up with very efficient scorers. So there are some people still have quite a lot of work to do in the Bundesliga when you see his assists. And I'm not saying every one of them. I think he's had some great assists, step overs on the ball, like moments where he's really shown that he understands the movement of someone like Dortmund. And I think that is really key. What we're looking for here is not someone who plays well in the Dortmund system solely, but where a system will be suited to him, but someone who's got like more broad features and can play more broadly for lots of different applications. He seems to suit that slot type figure, and also the fact that he could play left or right. I definitely think his favoured side is the left. Obviously, he's a left-footed player in the first place, but could go over to that right-hand side. I'm wondering if he's kind of like an alternative to Gordon for us, but the reason we would have wanted Gordon, there's a homegrown aspect there, there's an English aspect there. Karim Adeyemi is obviously registered for the German national team, so it doesn't fit any of those. There is a slight worry around injury or injury proneness, I guess, towards like the end of last season, or actually the beginning of last season, really. He had like a quite sustained period out. Obviously, he still played quite a few games last season, and I think he played them to a very good level. There's a couple of months where he really excelled, and more recently, obviously, he's been well back in the press with like some 8 and 9 type performances, which is obviously fantastic, not least against Celtic. But can I really say that Celtic is like, is Celtic the performance I'm looking for here? And I think he would fit well. I think it's very difficult to profile any winger and not say, well, I could see them at Liverpool. Liverpool love a goal-scoring winger right now. It's been something we've become a lot more used to over the last few years. We've certainly enjoyed watching that like slightly deeper striker in Firmino or Jota, whoever it is, hooking up with those guys. The adaptability that someone like Adeyemi brings in the same way as Salah or Diaz or Mane, lots of those different guys, bring to the side where they can either go wide or they can come inside. They can be those like wide strikers almost on the field. That's a really nice profile of player to have. It certainly suits modern football. And it's one that also means that you've got an adaptable player that if you want to sign a big striker, Adeyemi can probably play off him. We've seen him play in the Dortmund side where that's possible. If you've got a 10 or you've got like a really active 8, he can play off that. That's really fantastic. He's certainly capable of getting into those like 17 and 18 areas in front of the penalty area and either troubling the opposition or making a play where it's going to, be a bit of an issue for them. Anyway, the point is at this point, it also may indicate if Liverpool are showing interest in Gordon, Adeyemi, that profile of player, that they feel there is a player leaving. Most likely, Mo Salah, if Mo Salah can't sign a new contract, and I'm making another video about that, I don't think we're going to see any of the 3 big players sign Liverpool contracts, that's Salah, Van Dijk or Trent, until January. Because those guys are going to wait for big offers. They're going to wait for another team to come in and go, hey, well, do you want to sign for us? We'll give you X amount a week. Liverpool, can you match that? Liverpool, will you match their lifestyle? Whatever it is. And they're probably interested in boosting their contracts quite significantly. So as much as people are saying, they just want to keep hold of Salah, obviously I'd love to keep hold of Salah, but if it comes to pass that he needs to move on, then a succession plan and someone who can hit the ground running would be fantastic. Do I think that's Karim Adeyemi? Most probably not, because we've already got Diaz on one side. We've already got, you've already got Gakpo on that side as well, who's shown like a really driving, forward-thinking and team-focused approach to the game where it's like, he will get back, he will defend, he will win the ball in midfield, he will carry it forward at a really high pace, he will be a constant goal threat. He does have the adaptability to play inside or out, though very often we like him playing in off the left at Liverpool at the moment. That's where Slot profiles him and really enjoys him. And broadly, the Klopp experiment of playing where he did play him didn't quite work. But, the Slot experiment seems to be working so far. Champions League, all these different areas, I'm quite enjoying watching Cody Gakpo. So I'm kind of wondering where Karim Adeyemi fits in. I don't think he'd come in to be backup. I think he'd come to the Premier League and want to be a starter. I don't think he'd come in to be a striker. And I certainly don't think he'd come in to play on Mohamed Salah's side. I think there's probably stronger profiles of player to play over there. I love what he does. I think he's a really great player. And I know he's got a couple of years left on his contract. They're going to be looking to cash in on that if they know he wants to move on. And the other side of that is they also, he might be looking at other teams going, this might be my big chance for a big move. But he's still relatively young. 22 is still very young for one of these players. And I just wonder if Liverpool would take a risk on a player like that. Maybe a couple of years ago, it felt a bit more realistic because, well, hey, That guy's going to be a lot cheaper. You say a lot cheaper, like 30 million. Are Dortmund going to double that if they want to sell him? Probably. He profiles well as a winger. I think he is that. He's that like inside forward, come winger when you want him to be. I love how he's growing. I love how his hair has changed. He seems to have grown into himself a little bit as a man. There is doubt over what his height is. It's 177 listed on SofaScore, but it's 180 listed on Wikipedia. It's 178 listed on another website. So there's a couple of different height things, but he's not the tallest man on the pitch, but he's scored headers. Like I've seen him get up above defenders, and he has like a very broad set of goals and a range of abilities, which would probably help him in taken. But I also think there's another aspect with this where Liverpool love a good guy. They love someone who's going to be in line off the field as well. I don't want to raise this. I think I'm careful in raising this, but it's just something I thought we'd mention. The German red tops, the kind of trashy tabloids, are also talking about his obsession with his girlfriend at one point, how he wasn't playing well on the field and how that had been because he had a bit of an obsession with a woman off the field, his girlfriend at the time. I'm really reticent to kind of bring that thing up, but I want to include it in my profile because I think it's important to also get rid of some of these rumours. Obviously, Liverpool wants someone who's going to be in a stable relationship and they want someone who's going to be focused on their football because everyone around them is helping them achieve their goals and their dreams. Sure, that seems to be the case for a lot of modern footballers, right? It became a bit of a headline in Germany. I think it was a very easy one, slightly racist, but also at a time when there were a lot of other high-profile players in the team. It's just easy to take digs at these players. He made really great relationships with the players around him, seemingly had a good relationship with people like Jude Bellingham, high-profile egos, he can mesh well with them. He also has a high-profile ego of his own, clearly, that he can go out there and back up. And I personally think he will be a great squad addition. If Luis Diaz was to go to Barca, if Salah is to go somewhere else, I think he's a great winger that comes in and hits the ground running. Do I think he is that statement signing that if we see Salah, Van Dijk or Trent leave next summer is going to salve that wound a little bit and soften that blow? No. But do I think that has to be the case? And do I think Liverpool are probably looking to build a squad rather than make one transfer statement? Yes. For me, Karim fits that. He fits the profile of a Liverpool player. He would, maybe there's the chance that he might be a Real Madrid player one day, something like that. I think that would be a very outside chance considering the profiles and the teams that they have right now. But that probably is good for Liverpool. It's someone they can come in and know they're not going to get much trouble with, people saying, oh, he wants to leave, oh, he doesn't want to be here. Like, oh, I'm not sure he's the kind of guy who wants to be at Liverpool. They know that they can rely on him for quite some time. And frankly, I'm always slightly careful in profiling wingers because when we profiled Mo Salah as a winger, but also as an inside forward, almost similar profile to Karim Adeyemi, but on the flip side of the field, his stats weren't exactly the strongest. We knew that big teams took an interest in him, but we didn't know whether he could apply it at the very final stage, the very final step. Obviously, Chelsea doubted that. I don't think Roma doubted that. I don't think Liverpool doubted that. Klopp himself wanted other players. So I think there's a history here at Liverpool of basically saying like, look, the underlying stats for this guy, but also the character, where we believe that if you coach him and put him in this position, he will grow, works. Karim Adeyemi fits every one of those things. He's 22, he's coming out of a really great team and seemingly a really great series of teams in Salzburg, obviously with Liefering as well, and then with Dortmund as well. All the right noises are being made. And at a time when Liverpool are looking at a couple of different people in the market, like I mentioned, Gordon, those kind of guys, it's a fun little profile to do. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will chat to you here on the Liverpool channel again soon. Much love. Bye.